So today we're going to install Exchange 2016 onto a server. Before you do that, there is a couple of things that you need to install beforehand. You need the .NET framework on, the Visual C runtimes, and the Unified Communications add-on. And I've already downloaded these and I've put them in the software folder. I've also got Chrome that I will use later on. There's no order to worry about in installing them. I'll just do them in the order they come. So I'll start off with the .NET installer. Of course, we'll accept the license agreement and we'll install it. And this is the standalone installer. It doesn't need to go online and download any information. So it's verified the files and it will begin installation quite shortly. Asks us if we want to close the web servers, and yes, we will. We'll be doing a reboot once they're all installed, and that should restart any services required. And there's .NET installed for us. The next one on the list is Unified Comms, so we'll install it. Again, we have a license agreement, and again we'll install it. Unified Communications gives us some of the text-to-speech options that Exchange requires. And another installation done. And finally, Visual C runtimes. And there we have the three add-ons required. Now I've already mounted the DVD on the PC, and if we have a look at what's on the disk, we'll find the multiple languages that Exchange can cope with, some scripting files, and right down at the bottom we will find a setup program that we can launch. So setup's getting itself ready, and we'll get installing in a few seconds. We don't need to check for updates. We can always do that later on a real system. And it copies across some of the files that's required for our installation. And with the files copied, it can start the setup. So we get a small introduction to what is Microsoft Exchange, and yet again another license agreement. We'll run it in recommended mode. It does provide some feedback to Microsoft, and we'll go online automatically and check for solutions to errors if we get any. So we will do that one. And of the three parts, we're going to take the mailbox role and the management tools. The Edge transport tends to be installed on a separate server, and that server would be positioned at the web side of your firewall, or in your DMZ, DMZ, whatever you want to call it, to expose it, and it contains all the anti-spam options. We will add it to our system later manually. We will also take the option to take any Windows Server roles we haven't installed, but we should have them all on at the moment anyway. It asks us where we're going to install it. I've only got the one hard drive, so that position will be fine. And we ask for the name for this exchange. So what we'll just do is we'll just call it Mail Server, and you don't want to tick the box for split permissions. This is only used when you've got one user in charge of Active Directory and a second user in charge of Exchange. And it does say down at the bottom here, if the same person manages both Exchange and Active Directory, you shouldn't apply this model. So, do you want to disable malware scanning? I wouldn't advise that, so we'll say no. And then it checks to make sure we've got all the prerequisites required. We have them all installed, so I would be quite happy that this should succeed. It may give us some warnings at the end, but as long as no errors come up, we will be fine. Installing Exchange can be quite a lengthy process. I'm expecting this to take around about an hour to install fully, but we'll let it continue and I'll join you once it's done its checks. So, as I expected, a couple of warnings, and all it's warning that it's going to elevate some of the permissions for Exchange, and it'll run various preparation files in Active Directory, because what we will find is that Exchange now gives us the option to add users the same as Active Directory users and computers did. So there's some changes being applied, but we have an install button, so we can hit install, and now the start of the 15 progress bars that we're going to see as we work our way through that. There is no interaction now for approximately the next hour, so I will be pause and I will come back at the end of the 15th step. So finally we have Exchange installed. We will need to do a reboot. However, before that we'll make the final DNS entry to get the machine up and running. So we'll head across to Windows Administrative Tools and DNS, and once we're in here we can open up the forward lookup zone for our machines. This is a domain called mail.com, and what we want to do in here is add a new mail exchanger or MX record. The top field can be left blank, and in here we type in or browse for the name of the mail server. So this machine is called hot.mail.com, and as this is our first mail server, we'll give it a priority of 0, the highest priority. Any backup mail servers we create can have a higher number, and we now have an MX record installed. So after a reboot, this machine will be configured.